The peaceful evening that turned into a nightmare. The evening air in Willow Creek was peaceful, as it usually was. The streets were quiet, and the sky glowed with the warm golden hues of a setting sun, casting a tranquil light across the small town. It was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, where kids could play outside and bike down the streets without a worry in the world. Safety was a given, and fear a distant memory. But this perfect calm was about to shatter in a way no one could have predicted. 8-year-old Emily Carter, with her pigtails bouncing and a smile that could light up the room, was on one of her evening walks. Her loyal companion, Rex, a powerful and imposing German shepherd, walked alongside her. Rex wasn't just any dog. He had been a K-9 officer in the police force, trained to serve and protect. Despite his early retirement after an injury to his former handler, Emily's father, Officer Daniel Carter, had adopted Rex, making sure the bond they shared never ended. Rex was more than a dog. He was Emily's protector, her constant guard, and her best friend. They walked their usual path, down the quiet street near the edge of town, with the faint chirp of crickets and the soft rustling of leaves as their only soundtrack. Emily hummed a little tune to herself, completely unaware of the storm that was brewing just beyond their peaceful world. The sun dipped lower, and a cool breeze swept through the trees, rustling the branches. Emily tugged lightly on Rex's leash, laughing as the dog gently nudged her hand with his nose. Everything was perfect, just as it always was during their evening strolls. But neither of them noticed the sound of distant motorcycles, engines roaring louder and louder as they neared, cutting through the calm night. At first, Emily didn't understand the sounds. But Rex, who had always been alert, his senses sharp as a knife, perked up. He sniffed the air, his ears immediately pricked, and his posture stiffened. He was on high alert, but Emily, lost in the comfort of their walk, didn't notice. It wasn't until the roaring engines grew dangerously close that she turned her head to see what Rex was sensing. A group of 3 bikers appeared, speeding down the road in their leather jackets and dark helmets. Their bikes rumbled like a distant storm, and their faces were hidden beneath the helmets, making them appear even more menacing. They weren't from Willow Creek. They were drifters, troublemakers looking for a place to prey on. As soon as the bikers spotted Emily, alone and with only her dog for company, their behavior shifted. They revved their engines, circling around her, cutting off any path for escape. Emily's heart skipped a beat, and she froze. Her eyes widened in fear, and she instinctively held onto Rex's leash tighter. The bikers smirked, sensing her vulnerability. "Well, what do we have here?" One of them sneered, the sound muffled through his helmet. A little girl, all alone with her dog. Emily tried to steady herself, feeling her pulse race, and the fear creeping up her spine. She barely managed to squeak out, "I'm not alone," her voice trembling. The bikers burst into laughter, mocking her attempt to defend herself. "Oh, you mean this, mutt?" Another biker chimed in, stepping forward and towering over her with a cruel smile. "He's not going to help you." But Rex wasn't about to stand by. His entire body tensed, his muscles rippling with power. He growled, a deep and guttural sound that filled the air with an intensity that sent chills down Emily's spine. The bikers paused, taken aback by the sound of the dog's protective growl. They had no idea what they were about to face. The first biker, in a show of bravado, stepped even closer. "Be a good girl and hand over what you've got," he demanded, reaching toward Emily. His arrogance was short-lived. Before he could even make a move, Rex exploded into action, his instincts kicking in with the precision of a trained K-9. With a speed that surprised everyone, Rex lunged at the biker, sinking his powerful jaws into the man's arm. The biker screamed in agony as Rex twisted his body, using his weight to throw him off balance. The other bikers stood frozen, stunned by what they had just witnessed. They had underestimated the little girl and her dog, thinking they were easy prey. But Rex was no ordinary dog. He was trained, and in this moment, he was the perfect protector. The fight for survival. The two remaining bikers stood motionless, eyes wide in disbelief. The first man staggered backward, clutching his wounded arm, cursing under his breath. Rex, with his strong jaws still locked onto the biker's arm, released him only when he sensed the danger had shifted. His protective instincts, sharpened over years of training, were in full swing. His job was clear: protect Emily at all costs. The second biker, who had been readying himself to pull something from his jacket, froze. In that brief moment of hesitation, Rex was already moving. With a sudden burst of energy, Rex lunged forward again, knocking the biker off his feet. The man fell to the ground with a sickening thud, his knife clattering uselessly to the pavement. The air around them crackled with tension, and Emily stood motionless, both terrified and in awe of what was happening before her eyes. Rex's eyes glinted with the sharpness of his training, his every move calculating, purposeful. The bikers' aggression had turned to fear as they realized they were up against more than just a little girl and her dog. They were up against a trained protector, a force to be reckoned with. One of the bikers, the third and last of the group, realized things were escalating quickly. His gaze shifted toward his motorcycle, the engine still humming faintly, but the thought of retreating filled him with dread. He took a few steps back, considering the safest course of action. But Rex wasn't about to let him off that easily. Rex's training kicked into overdrive. With a single, swift movement, he lunged at the third biker, grabbing onto his jacket with his powerful jaws. The man's body slammed into the ground, and his helmet bounced across the asphalt. The biker groaned in pain, struggling to get free, but Rex's grip remained strong. He wasn't just holding the man down. He was sending a clear message. No one would harm his charge. The other two bikers, seeing their comrade struggle and hearing the sharp, aggressive barks from Rex, knew they had no chance. They scrambled to their motorcycles in a frantic retreat, shouting to each other in a panicked frenzy. "This isn't worth it," the first man shouted as he attempted to mount his bike, his wounded arm limp at his side. The sound of the bikes revving to life echoed through the air as they sped away, tires screeching on the pavement as they raced down the deserted road, disappearing into the thickening darkness. Emily, still in shock from the confrontation, couldn't process everything at once. Her knees wobbled, and she dropped to the ground, wrapping her arms around Rex's neck. Tears welled up in her eyes, not out of fear, but from an overwhelming sense of relief. She hugged him tightly, whispering over and over again, "You saved me, boy. You saved me." Rex's tail gave a gentle wag, his deep brown eyes never leaving the road where the bikers had just fled. His body was still tense, his muscles coiled and alert, aware that danger wasn't truly gone. He had saved Emily, but the mission wasn't finished until he was sure they were completely safe. The moon cast a faint glow over the scene, illuminating the tire marks left by the bikers' rapid escape and the scattered debris from the scuffle. The night was eerily quiet now, the tension from moments ago still hanging in the air. Emily's hands trembled as she stroked Rex's fur, trying to ground herself in the safety he had provided. Just then, the distant sound of sirens pierced through the stillness. The wail of the police vehicles grew louder, signaling the arrival of Officer Daniel Carter, Emily's father. He had been on duty nearby, and the call had reached him the moment the bikers were identified as a threat. The patrol car skidded to a stop, tires crunching on the gravel as Daniel leaped out, his gun drawn, his eyes wide with panic. "Emily," he called, his voice strained with concern. His heart skipped a beat when he saw her, unharmed but clearly shaken, kneeling on the ground with Rex by her side. His gaze darted toward the bike tracks and the bloodstains from the earlier confrontation. His mind raced, trying to piece together the chaos that had unfolded. Emily stood up, her arms instinctively reaching for her father. "Dad, I'm okay. Rex saved me," she whispered, her voice trembling as she pressed herself into his arms. Daniel's face softened as he held her tightly, a wave of relief washing over him. But as his gaze shifted to Rex, standing watch, alert as ever, a swell of pride filled his chest. He knew the dog, had worked alongside him in the past, and had witnessed the bond they shared. But this was something different. Rex had not only protected his daughter, but had acted instinctively, fighting off 3 attackers without hesitation. "Good boy," Daniel murmured, walking over to Rex and placing a hand on the dog's strong back. "You never stopped protecting her, did you?" Rex's tail gave another slow wag, as if acknowledging the gratitude. The dog was exhausted but content, knowing he had done his job, and done it well. Officer Daniel Carter stood back, taking in the scene. His little girl was safe. The bikers were long gone, but Rex's bravery would be remembered forever. There was something truly special about the bond between a K9 and its handler. And tonight, it had saved a life. Before Daniel could process the full weight of what had just occurred, backup units arrived on the scene. The officers took in the chaotic remnants of the altercation, processing the scene with swift professionalism. Within the hour, the bikers had been tracked down and arrested. That night, Daniel held his daughter close, and Rex lay beside them on the couch, his watchful eyes still scanning the room. The house was safe, but the events of that night would forever be etched in their memories. Rex wasn't just a dog. He was a hero, and from that moment on, he would be remembered as the protector who had kept a little girl safe when no one else could. The town of Willow Creek would soon know Rex as more than just a retired K9. They would know him as a legend, the dog who saved the day. And Emily, with her heart full of gratitude and love, would forever carry the memory of that night. The night when her dog proved that true protection, loyalty, and bravery could come in the form of a German shepherd with a heart of gold. The heroes of Willow Creek. As the adrenaline from the confrontation began to wear off, Emily found herself wrapped in a blanket of comfort and warmth. Her father's arms, firm and reassuring, held her tight against the harsh reality of what had just happened. But as she looked up at Rex, who had not left her side, a sense of awe filled her heart. She had always known that Rex was more than just a pet. He was family, a companion that her father had trusted and raised with the same care and attention as one of his own children. But tonight, he had shown Emily something that could not be measured in mere affection. Rex wasn't just a dog. He was a protector, a warrior disguised as a pet, whose training and instincts had saved her from a fate that none of them could have anticipated. As the sirens grew louder, Daniel tightened his hold on Emily, his fingers running through her hair, trying to soothe away the remnants of fear. But he knew it wouldn't be enough to erase the images of the bikers, of the terror in Emily's eyes as they had circled her, ready to cause harm. His mind raced, but amidst the rush of thoughts, one thing stood clear. Rex had been their savior. The sound of footsteps echoed from the distance as Officer Pruitt and Officer Martinez arrived at the scene. The 2 officers approached cautiously, noticing the bloodstains and tire tracks, confirming the earlier chaos. They exchanged glances, their eyes drawn to Rex, who stood unwavering, guarding his family as if daring anyone to approach. Martinez approached cautiously and knelt beside Rex, running a hand over his fur. "You did good, boy," he said softly. "Real good." Rex's ears perked up at the sound of praise, his tail wagging once more, but his eyes remained on the road where the bikers had fled. He wasn't done yet. His instincts told him danger could still be lurking, even if it had momentarily vanished into the night. He was a soldier, and Emily was his responsibility. As the officers set up their perimeter and began their investigation into the scene, Daniel couldn't help but reflect on the bond he had with Rex, a bond that had been forged years ago, back when Daniel was still on the force. He remembered the day he had first met Rex, a raw, untrained dog, full of potential but in need of guidance. Daniel had been hesitant at first, unsure whether adopting a retired K9 was the right decision, especially after his career had taken a sudden turn due to an injury. But when Rex had first looked at him with those soulful eyes, Daniel knew he couldn't part with him. They had been through countless operations, faced threats and danger together, but never had their bond been tested like this. Tonight, Rex had done what no human could have. He had defended his little girl with the loyalty and courage that only a true protector could display. The idea that he was just a retired dog seemed laughable now. Rex had never stopped being the partner Daniel had known him to be. He had just needed a new mission, a new family to protect, and Emily was his purpose. As the police completed their investigation, it wasn't long before a tow truck arrived, followed by the sound of more police sirens. The bikers had been caught, their identities confirmed, and their crimes cataloged. The news of the attack spread quickly through Willow Creek, and soon the whole town knew the story of the brave dog who had protected the little girl with everything he had. Rex was hailed as a hero, and Emily couldn't help but feel a swell of pride every time someone mentioned his name. Daniel stood by, his hand resting on Rex's head as the dog lay next to Emily on the couch. The two of them, having been through so much together, shared a quiet moment of peace. The weight of the night's events seemed to lift, replaced by the deep, unspoken bond that lay between them. Rex, though exhausted, never let his guard down. He lay with his head resting on Emily's lap, watching her with a gentle but vigilant eye. "Dad, do you think Rex knew?" Emily asked quietly, breaking the silence. Daniel, looking down at Rex, nodded thoughtfully. "I think he always knows. It's his job. It's what he was trained for. But you're his family now, Em. I think he's always known that, too." Rex's ears twitched at the sound of Emily's voice, and he lifted his head slightly to give her a gentle nudge with his nose. Emily laughed softly and stroked his fur, her fingers tangled in the soft coat that had been a source of comfort through the ordeal. The town of Willow Creek had witnessed a miracle that night, and Rex was its hero. From that moment on, no one looked at the bond between a girl and her dog the same way again. It wasn't just affection or companionship. It was a partnership built on trust, loyalty, and courage, a partnership that had saved a life. Emily's friends and neighbors would never forget the story of the night Rex protected her, but for Emily and Daniel, it was a reminder of how far love and devotion could go. For Emily, it was the night she learned that her dog wasn't just a protector, he was her guardian angel. And for Rex, it was another chapter in his storied life as a hero, one that would be told for generations to come in Willow Creek. The morning after the attack, Emily sat on the porch, Rex at her side, watching as the world returned to normal. The sun shone brightly, casting a golden hue over the town, and the faint sounds of children playing in the distance echoed through the streets. But for Emily and Rex, nothing would ever be the same again. They had faced the worst and come out stronger, bound by the unbreakable bond of loyalty and love. And in that small, quiet town, a dog and a girl shared a bond that no one could ever break. The legacy of a hero. As the days passed in Willow Creek, the town gradually settled back into its peaceful routine. The unsettling incident with the bikers had come to an end, and Rex had become a local legend. People would stop Daniel and Emily in the streets, giving a friendly nod to the dog who had saved a little girl. Even though the bikers were caught and brought to justice, the story of Rex's bravery remained the talk of the town, reminding everyone that sometimes heroes come in the most unexpected forms. But for Daniel and Emily, this momentary heroism had changed them forever. They had witnessed something extraordinary, the unbreakable bond between a human and an animal that transcended simple companionship and friendship. It was a bond built on respect, trust, and an unspoken promise to protect each other, no matter the cost. The bravery Rex had shown that night wasn't just the result of his training. It was his love for his family. It was a love that had driven him to defend Emily with all his might. One afternoon, weeks after the incident, Emily sat in her backyard, as she often did, playing with Rex. The sun was starting to set, casting long shadows across the lawn as they played a simple game of fetch. Her laughter echoed through the yard, the sound of joy and freedom. And as she threw the ball across the yard, Rex dashed after it, his body swift and graceful, a testament to his years of training and service. Daniel watched from the porch, a smile on his face, but his mind lingered on the quiet lessons learned over the past few weeks. He had seen his old partner, his canine companion, step into a new role, a role as a protector of his daughter. Daniel knew that it wasn't just the police training that had made Rex a hero that night. It was the deep bond of loyalty and love that tied him to Emily, a bond stronger than anything else in the world. It was that same bond that Daniel had once shared with Rex. It had always been there, during training, during the long hours spent on patrol, during the difficult times when they had relied on each other to get through challenges. But that bond had grown in a new direction when Emily came into their lives. Rex was no longer just Daniel's partner. He was a member of their family, a guardian, a true protector. "Dad, look at Rex," Emily said, her voice full of admiration as she watched the dog return with the ball in his mouth. "He's so strong and brave, but he's also so gentle." Daniel joined her in the yard, squatting beside her as Rex dropped the ball at their feet. He gently patted Rex's head and said, "He's not just strong, Em. He's got a heart full of courage. That's what makes him special. That's what makes him a hero." Emily smiled and hugged Rex tightly, her little arms wrapping around his neck. "He saved me, Dad. I'm never going to forget that." Daniel's throat tightened as he looked down at Rex, whose eyes met his with a knowing look. Rex had done something extraordinary, but in the quiet moments like this, with Emily's laughter filling the air, Daniel understood that this was the true reward. They weren't just a team of K9 and officer anymore. They were a family bound by love and trust. That night, as Emily fell asleep in her bed, Rex lay next to her, his head resting on her feet, keeping watch. His once vigilant eyes, always searching for potential threats, had softened into a quiet understanding. His duty had been fulfilled, but his mission wasn't over. He was still Emily's protector, still her best friend. As Daniel stood in the doorway, watching the bond between his daughter and the dog that had saved her, a sense of peace washed over him. Rex had fulfilled his purpose, not as a police dog, but as a guardian, a protector who had ensured that his family was safe, no matter the danger that loomed. In the years to come, stories of Rex's bravery would be told time and time again in Willow Creek, passed down through generations. The heroism he displayed would serve as a reminder to everyone that true courage doesn't come from strength alone. It comes from the heart, from love, and from a willingness to protect those you care about, no matter the cost. As for Emily, she grew up with the knowledge that, no matter what life threw at her, she would always have Rex by her side, her faithful protector, her hero. The bond between them remained unshakable, a constant force in her life. And as she walked through the streets of Willow Creek, hand in paw with Rex, the world saw not just a little girl and a dog, but a pair of heroes, bound together by love, loyalty, and a bond that could never be broken. Rex had saved her life, but in doing so, he had also saved their family, their town, and their story. And no one, not even time, would ever be able to erase the legacy of the K9 who protected a little girl with the heart of a warrior. This concludes the story. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope you found it enjoyable. If you did, please consider liking the video and sharing it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell for more captivating stories. Have a great day.